Hey guys, what's up? It's me, Brooke here, and as you can tell, I'm filming this in my bathroom because it is so hard to find one place in my house where you can't hear my whole family screaming, since that's just the perks of living with an insane family. So yeah, if you're wondering why I'm sitting on my bathroom floor like a crazy person, there's your answer. So I made a poll on my Instagram about a few days ago if you guys wanted to see a Real Thoughts Thursday episode where I kind of just answer and talk on topics that you send me on my Instagram DM, or if you wanted me to do a video on depression, kind of just like my take on it, my experience, and how I've just dealt with it. Almost like 80% of you guys voted for a video on depression. So that is why I'm filming this today. As you can tell by the title below, this is going to be about my depression, how I've dealt with it, and tips that can help you if you're going through the same thing. I think this video is super important because if this can help one person just feel less alone in their struggle with mental health, then it's totally worth it. So without further ado, let's get into the video. In order to kind of give you an idea of like how depression has really affected my life, I never like clinically diagnosed with depression ever. I never was diagnosed with it from my therapist, but it was very obvious to me that I had many signs of it. And that's why I did go like see a therapist and like seek help, because it was just really affecting my life. Really kind of triggered it was when I was going through my eating disorder. As many of you know, what I literally talk about all the time is how I struggled really bad with an eating disorder over last year for months on end, relapsing and recovering, and then finally where I am right now is fully recovered. But during those times, you know, when you are doing that to your body and when you're going through that, you literally become so depressed. A lot of people look at eating disorders as something that affects you physically. You physically see someone that's underweight and you're concerned about their health. Sure, I had physical issues too. My hair was falling out, I was passing out, muscles were aching, I had no emotion, etc., etc. Like, there were physical things happening to my body. Of course, I was underweight, but my mental health became so affected by it because I was living in a prison. To give you a further idea as to why my mental health was so affected and why I did become depressed during my eating disorder, is it literally took over my life to the point where I no longer was going out. I never saw friends. I didn't talk to my family. Everything about my life only revolved around food, getting skinnier, and being at the gym for hours on end. And it became so obsessive, and this is actually very embarrassing to admit, but like, it shows how insanely obsessed I was in this. I would have a Fitbit, and I know that like Fitbits can be healthy for people, you know, if you want to drop a few pounds or you just want to become a more active person and you need a little motivation, people get a Fitbit to track their steps and kind of like motivate them to get up a little more. And I understand, but of course, when I was going through my eating disorder, I didn't take it in a healthy, balanced manner. I became obsessed with it. So I wouldn't just use it to make sure I was getting a little bit active. I would make sure I would hit 20,000 steps every day. So meaning my whole day was revolved around hitting 20,000 steps because I knew I would burn X amount of calories and would be losing weight. That was my whole day. When I kid you not, I would not sit down for more than 30 minutes. Now you might be like, Brooke, but you were in school, so you clearly were sitting down. Like, no, I would get up to the bathroom every single period and I would walk around the school, just laps around the school, making sure I got my steps in. When I got home from school, this is also very embarrassing, but I would make a little like path around my house that I would walk through, like through my kitchen, through my dinette, around the hall. I would walk around that path for about 30 minutes to 45 minutes till it hit 15,000 steps. Then I would let myself go to the gym, run and do cardio for hours. Then finally when I got home, I'd be so tired and it'd be so late at night that I would just pass out. That was my whole day. Like, that was it. And along with that, I wasn't allowed to eat anything. I mean, I had like 700 to 800 calories every day, which is literally equivalent to a meal out to dinner at Buffalo Wild Wings. Like, it was nothing. Like, literally, like 800 calories is like 2 meals like 2 out of like the million meals I have in a day. It's ridiculously low. You cannot survive on that. And I was being super active and I wasn't feeding my body. So my brain was so fogged with all of this, and literally my whole day was just infatuated with this. And I kind of used this as a distraction to not feel any of the feelings of pain that I was really going through. And it just caused me to be more depressed. I mean, it got to the point where I literally like wouldn't want to wake up in the morning. But the funny and contradicting thing is, I needed to wake up in the morning because I had to make sure I hit my steps and burnt calories. So you can imagine the fight going on in my mind was I didn't want to get out of bed. I was so depressed. I had no hope because I thought my life was literally going to look like this forever, which is daunting. And I also knew that I had to get up in the morning and be super active, and I couldn't eat, and I just felt like this robot. And I mean, once you get to that point, you know, I know many of you maybe can relate if like you do sports often and you're constantly training like really hard throughout the season. You probably can relate that your head's a little like, you're not super emotional, you don't have that much energy, you're really tired because you're training so much. So you can only imagine how I was doing that. I mean, I was training as if I was doing a freaking Olympic sport. Like, you shouldn't be that active all the time. You should let your body rest, but I didn't. And I also didn't feed myself, so my head was totally not in it. Like, only emotion I had was hopelessness. I just had no hope for the future. I genuinely thought my life was going to look like that forever, that I'm never gonna be able to go out to eat. I was never gonna be able to hang out with friends without having anxiety. I was never gonna be able to live life or go off to college because there's gonna be so many other foods, and what if I don't know the calories and I have to stay skinny? I mean, you can imagine the fight in my brain every single day. I never let myself rest, and once you get to that point, like, your mind is so fucked up, and that's where I was. And I just remember, like I mentioned this in my eating disorder video, like there was a time where I literally just, I didn't want to be here. And that was the only time that I've ever felt like that before. And it's really scary when you realize that you are in such a bad place that you like don't want to be here anymore. That's scary. Like, you end up scaring yourself that you really don't have motivation to do anything. And you know, not only that you just have no sense of hope, but you also just, it's so hard to explain, but those of you who've like had depression before, it's not like you're upset. It's kind of just like you have this dark cloud over everything and just nothing satisfies you anymore and nothing feels right. It's just like a missing piece. And that's how it felt for me, you know, and this was going on for so long, and I didn't finally get out of this depression until I decided to recover. I started recovering from my eating disorder. I started feeding myself, and my headspace started to clear up, and I started to finally go out with friends and just go out and do things and start living my life and letting my body rest. And once I started doing those things, I finally started to get out of this depression. But many of you probably, you know, aren't struggling with an eating disorder and you're just depressed. And I actually have dealt with that too. You know, in my past, I've had a past of going through phases where I get really depressed and there's no reason to be depressed. You know, I hear a lot of people who will like judge others and will say, well, everything's going good for you. Like, why the hell are you depressed? You don't have a reason to be upset. And a lot of the times, like, I get that. Like, there will be no reason that you are upset. Like, everything will be going good in your life, but you just don't have motivation anymore. It's just something is missing, something's off. And how I've dealt with that in the past, besides just my eating disorder, you know, getting recovered, how I actually dealt with just having, you know, maybe seasonal depression or just depression before, is I started taking up new interests and new hobbies. A really big part of depression is you stop finding interest in things that you used to love before. So in order to solve that is start finding new things that you love, you can take interest in. Something that'll make you want to wake up in the morning and start pursuing that new hobby. Literally be drawing, painting, doing something with music, a video game, YouTube, literally just anything that you find interest in that makes you want to wake up in the morning and pursue that. Take on that hobby. I swear it will help, even just a little bit. It will help you get out of this funk of having no hope or no interest anymore. Another thing that really helps is obviously getting out and talking to people and just having more human interaction. Something that I always tend to do is when I get really depressed is I will isolate myself and I don't want to talk to anyone or hang out with anyone. And it actually just makes it worse because you feel more lonely. You're sitting there just sinking in your own thoughts. And I know that when you are alone with your own thoughts, sometimes you can just overthink things and you can just make it worse. And lastly, the best thing to do is talk about it to other people. Find someone that can relate to your situation, because I know it is the worst thing when you are going through something mentally and you feel as if no one else is going through that. It makes you feel 20 times more alone. You don't understand as why you are the only one that's going through this. It makes you feel crazy, like you shouldn't be feeling this way. And honestly, it makes things worse. Find someone that can really relate to you. Honestly, not a therapist. I don't have any degree in this. I'm just telling you my experience and what has helped me. And obviously, seeking help, going to a therapist, maybe going on medication if you're prescribed by a doctor is totally recommended in this situation. I highly recommend you talk to a therapist. And these other things besides talking to a professional will also help as well. So I really hope that this video kind of made you feel less alone if you're going through this. And just to let you know, even though it is so cheesy, it does get better, but you have to put in the work. You can't just wait for your depression to go away and just sit down and sulk and feel bad for yourself. You have to push yourself to get out of that mindset. You have to make yourself go out with friends. You have to make yourself find new hobbies. You have to create that positive energy around you in order to get out of this. Because trust me, I used to just sit down and sulk and be upset and just wait for it to go away. But until I started to take action in my life and say, you know what, I'm gonna get up and I'm gonna actually try to get better. I'm going to get better and I'm not going to stop trying until I'm better. That's when I started to see a change in my mental health. And honestly, that's what will really help you if you are going through this as well. So I really hope you enjoyed this video, and don't forget to like and subscribe. And until next time, bye.